Hey everybody, in today's video, we're going to take a common Tai Chi technique, play the fiddle, and we're going to tie it directly to the way you should be walking in your daily life. Play the fiddle is the perfect technique to translate to normal walking because it executes movements of the core in precisely the same way that we need to do when we walk. This is going to help you keep perfect spinal alignment and reduce the stress on your joints when you're walking. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Todd Martin, creator of the Tai Chi Code and the Walking Code. Let's go ahead and jump right in. If you've practiced Tai Chi before, you're probably already familiar with the technique of play the fiddle because it's one of the first movements that we learn in the simplified Yang style 24 form. But even if you haven't practiced Tai Chi in the past, don't worry because we're only using a very small segment of the movement to tie into our normal walking, and it should be fairly simple to pick this up. What we're going to be doing is this half step from this position, a half step up, which we do prior to shifting back and going into play the fiddle. But what we're going to do to tie into normal walking is we're going to do the half step, and this happens to be the exact core position that we should be in after shifting weight when we are walking normally, right before the swing leg leaves the ground and goes forward. But we're in a more stable position because our body weight is sunken, and we can check our core positioning and then feel exactly what we need to do with our hip power to create the swing through portion of the step in a very smooth way with no crash onto the heel. The benefits of this exercise are going to be many. First, it's going to help us keep perfect vertical posture with the spine aligned over our hips and our knees when we're standing and when we are walking. It's going to allow us to feel the proper movement from our hips that move the body in a smooth fashion rather than leaning and crashing into our heel when we walk. And also it's going to prevent the very common duck walking issue people have where their feet are turned out at an angle. It's also going to help you feel the connection between your core, that's your waist muscles, and your hips, working together to control every movement that you do, not relying on gravity and pushing to create your movement. You're going to feel so much more confident when you control your movements with your core waist muscles and your hip muscles. That is going to make you more fluid, more aligned, and reduce the stress on your joints. It's also going to allow you to walk feeling like you're moving in a sort of meditation. To begin the exercise, first we're going to get into the position that precedes play the fiddle. This is the end of a movement called brush knee. What you're going to be doing is standing in a bow stance. So the front leg is facing directly forward, toes facing forward, rear leg about shoulder width apart, with the toes of the rear leg turned out about 45 degrees. And we're going to push the right palm forward if the left knee is forward. And this is the position we're going to get into. And we're going to try to make sure we are in proper spinal vertical alignment. So keep your spine vertical right here. Don't let it pitch forward. This is the position we're going to start with. Your knee should be lined up just about over or slightly past your ankle, but not past the toes of the lead foot. So this is our starting position. The palm of the left hand in this situation is palm down by the left knee. This movement in Tai Chi is called brush knee. And what we're going to do from this position is take a half step up, bringing the rear leg in and placing on the ball of the foot, but transferring all of the weight to the forward leg. This is a critical part of moving in normal walking because it's going to parallel the same movement we do as we shift weight after placing the heel and before we do the swing through. But because we are lowered in our stance, we're going to be able to do it slowly and in a controlled fashion. So we're going to use 3 elements of the core to execute this movement perfectly. First, our hip. We're going to use the hip of the rear leg and flex it, pulling the leg forward. So my right hip is going to flex, lifting it off the ground as I shift forward. The second element of the core is going to be our lower abs. The lower abs we use to shift our weight or our root, the connection to the ground. When I'm in brush knee, I'm using my lower abs on the right side. They are tucking the pelvis and rotating back and essentially helping to connect my right leg to the ground. So when you're in brush knee, you should feel a strong connection between your right hip, your right leg, and the ground pushing back. And you should feel a strong tucking action coming from the lower abs, keeping your pelvis level. That's the lower ab action in this position. And what we're going to do as we do the half step up is shift the root from the right side to the left side. We're going to do that by releasing the lower ab tuck on the right, and we're going to tuck the lower abs on the left. That is using our lower abs to pull up on the pelvis on the left side. That's going to shift the root from right to left. Let's do that here. I'm going to release the tuck on the right, and I'm going to tuck on the left as I pull the right hip forward. That's going to help bring my body weight forward and situate it over the left leg. The other thing to be aware of with the ab action, the lower ab action, is rotation. As you do the half step up, you can think about turning your belly button toward the left leg while you tuck on the left. Those are both movements executed by the lower abs. Rotation and tucking. Rotation counterclockwise and tucking on the left. So that is our lower ab action. So we've got our hip action, flexing the right hip, and our lower abs tucking on the left. Now, the third and final element of the core that's needed to combine with the first two is going to be the upper waist rotation. And here you're going to be able to use your arm to reflect what's going on with the upper waist rotation. You'll be able to see quite clearly in this position, my right arm is striking forward and it's being projected by the right upper waist muscles. Feel that motion of the upper waist, turn and turn back, turn, and see how you're projecting from the upper waist on the right. And as we shift our weight to the left in the half step up, what we're going to do is take the right side forward and change it to left side forward. And so you'll see the right arm drops back and the left arm begins to move forward. So now we have the left upper waist engaged, we have the left lower abs engaged, and we have the right hip engaged, flexing. That is the same core positioning that happens after we place the heel and shift forward to here. And now what we have to do is take this position and move it into a swing through phase of the step. But we're going to do it from the lowered play the fiddle position. Half step up, left upper waist engaged. You can feel like you're reaching forward with the left arm. left lower abs engaged. Feel like you're tucking the pelvis with your lower abs on the left and turning the belly button to the left, and the right hip is flexing. Now you notice if I flex the right hip even further, it doesn't move the body into the step. We have to change something with our hip action to go from here into the swing through phase of the step. My right hip has already done its work. And now for the next part, we need to engage the left hip, and the left hip is going to pull us into the swing through phase of the step. And now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that hip motion because it's essential to do this correctly, and it's one of the most common things people get wrong when they walk. Now that we have the core movement for the half step up, we're ready for the swing through. This is where we're going to engage the hip muscle on the left to pull the body into the swing through of a normal step. And you'll notice that when this happens, the feet are both going to be perfectly aligned in the direction that we are traveling. I mentioned that this is going to help fix duck foot walking, where people throw the leg forward and the feet are turned out. That happens because people are not using the correct hip to move. They're using the swing leg hip to throw forward instead of using the standing leg hip to create the power. And it can be a little bit difficult to figure out how to use this power correctly from the standing leg, and this positioning is going to help us figure that out. From this position, what we need to do is engage the left hip in what I'm going to call torquing. So it's not going to be a pushing action. A lot of people think about pushing from the glutes, the muscle in the back of the butt, pushing down to push the body forward. That causes the body to lean forward and crash. We're not going to push. And once you get in this position, you can feel that if you push and keep vertical posture, what you're going to do is just push yourself up and back. So you can feel that the glutes are not going to get you going where you're trying to go. We need to move the body forward, not push up and back. So that's going to require this torquing action. And the torquing action is coming from a continued activation of the lower abs that we already used to get us to this position, and then pulling from the hip flexors in the front of the hip. Those hip flexors pull the hip forward or the pelvis forward, and they also have a rotational effect, pulling the body around to the left when the left leg is forward. The fact that our lower abs are tucking the pelvis backward and the hip flexors are pulling the pelvis forward is what's going to create this torquing action. I'll demonstrate that more in a rotational sense so you can understand what torquing is. If you think of taking a towel and twisting the top in one direction and the bottom in the other direction, that is torquing. So you have two movements going in opposite directions. This is more of a vertical torque because you have one motion tilting the pelvis backward and the other motion tilting the pelvis forward. And so it's a vertical torque that you should feel, kind of a twisting action coming from this whole lower ab and hip area. As you're in this position, we're going to feel that torque and feel it pull your body up and forward into this position. From the side view, from this position, I'm going to use a torquing action on the left to pull the body forward. You should feel a kind of squeeze around the front and side of the hip, bringing you into this position with vertical posture, right heel hovering above the ground. The swing through forward of the swing leg is not because we swung the hip forward on the right. It's because the lower abs were rotating around to the left, and the hip on the left side is also giving a leftward rotation because it's flexing. That is another pulling action. So we have a pulling action from the left hip flexing. We have a rotational pulling action from the lower abs turning around to the left from this position. Those are pulling the right leg and pelvis around as I'm using the upper waist to keep the body facing directly forward. From this position, I can then reverse the rotation to bring the heel down, shift the weight, and pull forward in the next step. Now let's put it all together. First, doing the half step up, feeling the core movement, and then do the swing through, engaging the left hip. And then see if you can walk out by rotating the waist to bring your heel down in a very controlled fashion. Just avoid leaning forward. Once your heel is down, then you're going to execute the same exact movement that you did in the half step up. When the left heel comes down, then you're going to engage the lower abs on the left to tuck under, and now you have this position. The right hip in this situation will already be flexing if we were walking correctly. When I did the original swing through here, my right hip is already flexing, and then I use the upper waist on the left to bring the heel down and the lower abs to tuck under and shift the weight forward. So same positioning as the half step up. We're just in a higher position. Upper waist to bring the heel down, lower abs to shift the weight, and then the torque from the left hip to pull forward. And then upper waist, lower abs to shift the weight, torque from the right hip to pull forward. And then we sequence that one element at a time. I use the mantra turn, tuck, lift in the walking code to describe that motion, the 3 phases of the step. Turn to bring the heel down, tuck to shift the weight, lift is that torquing action, lifting the body forward. Turn, tuck, lift, turn, tuck, lift. You can walk very slowly, saying that mantra out loud or in your head, and help it get your core engaged with every motion of a step. When you do that, you're going to walk with so much more clarity and fluidity, and you're not going to feel any crashing into the heel and stress going up your knees and hips and into your back, and you're going to feel so much better. If you're interested in getting more into the core mechanics for walking and overall body movement, I highly suggest hopping over to my website and signing up for the Tai Chi Code Walking Code Bundle, where all of my core mechanics information is, and I'm offering it for a very low price of $10 a month. I hope to see you over there. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.